I attribute this to the patriarchy and women not knowing their bodies because we've been brainwashed into not understanding our bodies. But anyway, I digress. Hello there and welcome back to my channel. I am Ellen and today I'm going to be sharing all about embracing change throughout the first trimester as well as my symptoms that I experienced in my first pregnancy. So if that is of interest to you, stick around. One of the themes you're going to hear over and over again on my channel is all about embracing change. I love to talk about the process of growth, self-improvement, and embracing change rather than being resistant to or frustrated by it. To me, this pregnancy has been the epitome of practicing what I preach with all of my clients and just in general on a totally different level than I've ever experienced before. This experience of surrendering to my body and its needs on a totally new level. I'll just start off with the symptoms that I experienced. Some of these were I expected, I guess, because I've followed other pregnant women, and some of them, I guess, the intensity of the symptoms were not something that I expected. So I'm just going to share my experience. And if you have been pregnant or are pregnant, I would be very interested to hear how my symptoms compare to yours, or what was different, what was similar. And if there's anyone that has questions about pregnancy stuff, feel free to drop a comment and let me know. So in the first trimester is typically up until like week 13-ish. If you don't know this, this is mind-boggling. Also, I'm pretty sure I attribute this to the patriarchy and women not knowing their bodies because we've been brainwashed into not understanding our bodies. But anyway, I digress. The weeks of pregnancy total, according to the medical standards of today, 40 weeks. Now, 40 weeks includes 4 weeks that are not real weeks. And what I mean by that is I know exactly the date that I got pregnant because I know exactly the day that I ovulated. I found out that I was pregnant a week after my ovulation, and that was about almost a week before my missed period. Now, in the weeks counting, if you're not familiar, let's just say I got pregnant on May 30th. According to the weeks of pregnancy, because most women don't know the exact date of their ovulation, the medical establishment now just reverts back to your previous period date. So if I got actually pregnant on May 30th and my previous period was 3 weeks, 4 weeks before that, then the day that I find out I'm pregnant, I'm technically 4 weeks pregnant, according to today's math. Doesn't make any sense. I wish we would just know how to track our bodies and our ovulation instead of using the period as the marker, because we're not pregnant 4 weeks prior to that. But anyway, just in case you didn't know that, I didn't know that until I got pregnant. And I was like, wait, how many weeks am I? Like, how am I 4 weeks if I'm just like 1 week out from my ovulation? That doesn't make any sense. All that to say, I did not feel any symptoms until weeks, more like 5 or 6. I had been pregnant for a couple of weeks at that point, and I hadn't felt a single symptom. I knew somehow, some way that I was pregnant. I experienced a few symptoms that were like a little bit like a period, but there was kind of just this feeling in my body that I was like, this feels a little different than a period. There was something in my intuition that said, I think I'm pregnant. So I thought I was pregnant, I felt pregnant, but there was no symptoms to go along with that until like week 6-ish. And then between 6 and 13, well, 6 to 14, so 8 full weeks of pregnancy, I felt like a dumpster fire. There are many women who had it way worse than I did in their first trimester, and there are many people who have the same symptoms I had during first trimester, many weeks into their second trimester, or even all the way through their pregnancy. So pregnant women, you are fucking goddess women superheroes. I think the main horrible symptoms, the top 2, if I were to say, of first trimester, not everybody has these, so don't be afraid. Number 1, low energy. Like, I had bags under my eyes every day. I slept more than I normally did. I felt exhausted, like I would suddenly just hit a wall. It was almost like if you were to imagine like back in your 20s or something, like early in your 20s when you were hungover, you'd stayed up all night, you felt like kind of crap the next day, but you weren't like dead. You just like didn't feel great. And then like 4 o'clock the afternoon after, like you're hungover and you start to just like everything starts to catch up with you and you're like, oh man, I need to go to bed. I need to nap. I need to hydrate. I don't know. Like I'm I have a headache, I feel gross, I feel a little bit queasy, I feel like I need to sleep. That's kind of first trimester for me. It just was like this like yucky hangover kind of feeling that's like I just need to go to sleep and sleep this off because I feel terrible. So low energy and queasiness, like nausea. I never have I ever called what I've experienced morning sickness. I think that's a bullshit term for it, so you won't hear me say that, but that's what some people call this. Nausea. I experienced a lot of nausea. My nausea was triggered by, first of all, like an empty stomach or like not much food in my stomach. So most women tend to kind of graze throughout the day so that they avoid that, you know, empty stomach feeling, because that can really send you into like a spiral of, oh God, I feel too sick to eat, but I need to eat. And that's never a good place to be in. So I was just kind of constantly eating all day. And heat. If I just got too hot, I felt ill. Unfortunately, my whole first trimester was during one of the hottest summers ever, and I'm in a house that has no central air. So you would frequently find me standing in front of like a portable window unit, like flashing it, like holding my shirt up, my dress up, putting my feet in front of it. My feet like got really swollen and hot and like just needed to like ventilate. So I'd say those two symptoms were the most noticeable. I tend to be kind of like a power through energy slumps kind of person when I'm not pregnant. So like I kind of tried to like talk myself out of feeling like I needed to nap. This is me not pregnant too. Like I'm not a great napper. If I do lie down for a nap, I'll like scroll my phone instead of napping. Or if I do take a nap, then it's like I spend 45 minutes like trying to fall asleep and like 5 actual minutes of sleep. The difference was in pregnancy, I actually took some naps. Like I had to take naps. There was no getting out of it. Even if I was watching my phone or doing something or trying to push through or something, I couldn't. Like I literally had to go lie down and go take a nap, which was great as in terms of embracing change. Like this was a new experience of taking care of my body and my needs because there was no compromise available. It was just like, this is what I need to do and there is no arguing. So between the nausea and the energy, I spent a lot of time in my air-conditioned office here. When I was talking to clients or when I was in meetings or when I was doing things, like when my attention was fully on something else, it was actually manageable. Like I wouldn't get as nauseous as long as I was cool enough and snacking. If my attention was on something, I could focus and I could like accomplish things and show up for my work. Another pretty significant experience I had during my first trimester is depression. I would have to say that some of this was definitely hormonal. Some of it was like because of the low energy, because I felt ill a lot. There was definite and like probably hormones fluctuations the body's going through. I definitely know that I have been experiencing depression, like a mild state of depression. It has not been catastrophic. It's not made me completely dysfunctional in my life, but it has been my emotional experience. When I would otherwise have been very, very excited, I kind of just felt like numb and neutral a lot, or even just sad and anxious. There was also some circumstantial things that were going on in my life at the time that were hard to kind of separate from, is this depression symptoms from my pregnancy or is this just like some hard life stuff? I don't actually know, but I know that depression was something that was present for me and it was definitely connected to the energy and just feeling bad. Those three are the kind of the main ones that were on a daily basis something that I was experiencing. Other ones, number one was like a low grade fever. Like I said, I was generally triggered by the heat. It's actually very common for women's bodies to kind of sit at a low grade fever, especially during the first trimester. Your body temperature rises a bit. And so my body temperature was higher. Like my husband calls me a little radiator. I tend to be hot anyway. So you add an actual raised body temperature and it's summertime, like my body's working double time to like grow a human. I felt hot all the time. That kind of affected sleep. It made me hair trigger like sensitive to heat. If I got too hot within like 30 seconds to a minute, I was like, oh no, I can't do this. The low grade fever was definitely a thing. I had some headaches. Before I got pregnant, I tended to have like some tension headaches here and there. It was similar. I would just continually get like maybe on a weekly basis a headache and usually a massage like on the back of my neck or on my temples or my jaw. The same kind of points that helped me when I wasn't pregnant helped me when I was. Another thing, so hi ladies, if you're a guy watching this, hey, but ladies, my boobs hurt a lot, especially at first, because like right when I got pregnant, I actually showed really quickly. And by showing, that's not really like, you know, the baby's not like huge, but like I bloated. Like my stomach got noticeably bigger and my boobs got noticeably bigger, like very quickly within like a few weeks. And so just like kind of I don't know, it wasn't like my skin was stretching all that much, but it was just kind of like a tenderness in my boobs. If you've ever had tender breasts in like your PMS time, like the right before your period or during your period where you have like sore boobs, it's like that, but a little bit more intense, because not only are your boobs a little sore, but like specifically the nipples get very sore, because I don't know why, but my nipples, and I think this is also somewhat common, like the nipples change very quickly. They start to expand and get a little bit bigger, and they start to change. You know, if you think about a breastfeeding mother's breasts, like the nipples need to have a little bit more substance to them so that the child can grab on with their mouth. So the nipples like change in the way they look and the size. My belly was swollen feeling. I was kind of like perpetually very bloated. That was a strange thing because I don't think I was expecting to show very quickly, but I definitely did. A lot of things that I've learned since being pregnant are that, number one, your uterus swells like right pretty much from the beginning, like your organs are kind of moving out of the way and your uterus is expanding to kind of just fill up with the good stuff that's going to form the womb, the fluids and stuff that are going to create what is that thing called? Oh, pregnancy brain. That's also a symptom. The thing that feeds the baby, the sac or whatever. So your uterus is kind of getting a little bigger. Your stomach's getting a little bit bigger. Your organs are kind of moving out of the way. Also, if you're anything like me, you're also probably gaining some weight. In my next video, I'm going to share a lot about body image and body love and just the experience of gaining weight pretty rapidly. I used to be like a health coach and fitness enthusiast. I have struggled with weight most of my life. I've done a lot of healing work around it and done a lot of exercise to like really feel strong and empowered and all that in my body. But to rapidly gain weight the way that I did in my first trimester was a journey. So I'm going to share more about that in my next video. So if you want to watch that, definitely hit subscribe to catch the next one. But I gained, and I'm not joking, in my first trimester, which is from week 4, right when it began, through week 13. So what is that? 9 weeks. In 9 weeks, I gained about 25 pounds. And I mean, logically and objectively, it was definitely due to, number one, I stopped exercising pretty much entirely because if I sweat or if I got too hot, if I was moving a lot and just like raising my body temperature for exercise, or even just a walk outside in the heat, I felt like I was gonna throw up. And so I stopped most exercise. I still kept walking in the early morning and evening. I would take my dog out for a walk if I felt well enough to, but with decreasing the amount of exercise that I was doing and then increasing the amount of food I was consuming because I was snacking more and like kind of just eating all day, it logically makes total sense that I would gain weight. How much weight I gained, there's also something to account for at this time. Is not like you're just gaining a bunch of fat or something, but like your blood, this is something I learned very recently, your blood thickens. Like your fluids in your body change consistency and you actually gain more volume of fluid in your body, as well as like the viscosity gets a little bit thicker in your blood. And that's kind of why limbs swell. My arms look a little bit thicker than they normally do. I wouldn't say it's weight. I would just say it's like inflammation-y feeling, like it's just puffiness. Same with my hands, my feet, my ankles. There's just this swelling everywhere, and it's because the fluid in your body is different. That's part of weight gain in your first trimester. So if that kind of alleviates a little bit of anxiety, if that's a trigger for you, that's something to at least weigh into your consideration of what's going on. So a lot of weight gain in my first trimester. Like I said, I started showing pretty quickly, like I would say within a month of actually being pregnant. So if I actually got pregnant at 4 weeks, then by like 8 or 9 weeks, that bloat I was talking about, I was still wearing all my normal clothes. It just looked like I was gaining weight and that I just looked kind of bigger, but it was definitely a pregnancy bloat. Excuse me. Oh, I forgot some of my bigger symptoms of food aversions and cravings. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I totally craved stuff, and like it was always very, very specific. I knew what I wanted to eat. I was the most decisive I've ever been about like, what do I want for dinner? If we had food in the house that like didn't really accommodate that craving and I tried to eat it, it would make me nauseous. Like I would eat it and it would make me be like, ugh. Like I could be eating the most delicious lasagna you've ever had in your life, and if it wasn't a burger, like it just, I was sick. So it was not rational. It was totally just like, I know exactly what I want right now and I have to have that. So food aversions were very, very strong for me. If I smelled fish or some things that like coffee, I drank coffee every day before getting pregnant. A little bit into pregnancy, maybe halfway through my first trimester, coffee started smelling and tasting like dirt and it made me feel weird. My doctor said that whatever amount of caffeine I was drinking before, which is only about a cup a day, was fine. And that started to make me feel like I had heart palpitations. It just tasted bad. It smelled bad. It just didn't satisfy me the way that my cup of coffee in the morning usually had. So I just stopped. I pretty much cold turkey ended my caffeine addiction, which was awful for a few days. I had major headaches and just fatigue and all of that. If you've ever gone through caffeine withdrawal, it's not fun. But now I don't drink much caffeine. Like if I have a caffeine, it's gonna be like a Zevia soda, which is like kind of the healthier version of a soda. I really don't have much caffeine, maybe tea sometimes. So caffeine I don't really tend to have because it still does give me a little bit of heart palpitations. Coffee I can't be around. Like I just don't want to smell it. I don't. And in first trimester especially, I'd need to leave the room if any of these smells existed, like fish, coffee, random foods that I wasn't in the mood for. I just like was like, I don't want to smell that. I can't smell that. I gotta go. Whereas when I ate foods that I was craving, that it was like, this is exactly what I wanted. My foodies out there are gonna know what I mean. I had like food orgasms every day. It was just like, yes, this is everything. This is the best burger I've ever eaten. This is the best pizza I've ever eaten. This is the best salad I've ever eaten. It was like the spectrums got wider where like if I got what I wanted and what my body was craving, it was like the best food I've ever had. And if it wasn't what I wanted, it was like the worst thing I've ever smelled. There you go. When I went to the doctor, I have rants about doctors in this time. So if you're interested in hearing about the patriarchy of the medical system in America, I'm happy to rant about it if that is of interest to you. But I'll tell you two things just to like tickle you. One was that we were talking about weight gain in one of my first appointments. I told them that I noticed that I was gaining weight quickly, and is there anything that I can do to like take care of myself at this time? And if I'm not trying to gain like 60 or 70 pounds this pregnancy, like what should I do? Is there a way that I can like move my body or eat something that is a little bit, I don't know, what do I do? And my doctor said to eat more celery. I'm not joking. I never saw that doctor again. The second thing that ties me back to the symptom I was about to say was I had some pelvic floor discomfort, also known as like pelvic girdle pain. This is not that common for the first trimester, but it can happen. I think it was related to the bloat that I was talking about, my organs moving around, my uterus expanding. It just kind of felt like, this is gonna sound very strange, but like my organs were like trying to come out the bottom. I know that sounds crazy, but it wasn't that dramatic. It was just like there was pressure. Like if I didn't hold up my organs in there, it kind of felt like they were like trying to leave my body. So it would be very strange and random times that I would feel this. Like usually when I was just waking up in the morning, and then if I'd been sitting for a while, I would feel it. I think this is what some people refer to as lightning crotch. It would just be this sharp and sudden discomfort that was centered in my pelvic floor. As long as I did Kegel exercises, like as soon as that I felt that, I just started doing Kegels, and within a couple of minutes it would go away. But so I went to the doctor, another doctor later on, and I mentioned that I was having some discomfort in the pelvic floor and if there were any other exercises she recommended other than Kegels. And she looked at me like I had 10 heads and said, I'm not familiar with pelvic issues in pregnant women. Pelvic issues in pregnant women are very, 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 very common, just so everyone is clear. So the amount of gaslighting in my appointments and just like misogynistic bullshit has been a thing. But yes, to come back to pregnancy, first trimester, you may notice that I'm not wearing my wedding rings and all that stuff anymore. Second trimester was definitely, let's see, what am I right now? I am 17 and a half weeks as of recording this, at least a few weeks into my second trimester, just to complete point, the transition into second trimester that changed as soon as I knew I was entering second trimester was, number one, my energy came back and my nausea went away. So between weeks 14 and 15, which is kind of like you're leaving first trimester and entering second trimester, I started feeling like myself again. My husband was like, oh my God, you're back. Like it was like night and day of like, oh wow, this is what I felt like before I felt deeply ill for 2 months straight. And then my hands and feet started swelling a lot more, to the point that my rings were very tight on my hands, and I made a note of it and I was like, oh wow, I should probably take my rings off pretty soon. And then I waited a few days too long, and then they were like very, 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 very stuck, and it was very, very, very painful to take them off because I waited too long. So if there's anyone out there who's starting to notice some swelling in your hands, don't do what I did. Please take those off as soon as you notice any difference, if not even before, because I would not wish what I went through on anyone. That's about it. I feel fantastic. I feel energized. I feel like myself. I feel like I can exercise normally, eat normally. I feel like myself again. Sometimes I forget I'm pregnant, other than when I see myself in the mirror. Oh, hello. This is Editing Ellen from the future, and I am jumping in here on a totally different day in a totally new outfit to say that I filmed a part 2 to this video you're currently watching on the same day that was talked more about my first trimester experience as a business owner, and I figured separating that video from this video would kind of help, I don't know, clarify the different experiences. So I'm just gonna wrap up this video here and encourage you to keep an eye out for my next video, which will include just what being a first trimester, first time pregnant woman as a business owner was like, and things that I had to adapt and change in the moment in order to deal with the constantly changing, constantly sick feeling first trimester experience that I just described to you. So stay tuned for that video, keep an eye out for it, and I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and let me know in the comments if there are any questions or ideas that you have for content to cover around just pregnancy, business ownership, creative entrepreneurship, and everything in between. And I thank you again for watching, and I will see you in the next one. All right, bye friends.